I'm back with actor, producer, and podcaster Kirk Cameron. We've been talking about podcasts, and we've been talking about really telling the American story and telling the story about about God's influence in America. Let's talk about movies. Your latest film, Kirk, Lifemark, was in theaters. It's now making its way, I understand, to digital with PureFlix as the distributor. Talk a little bit about, I mean, you've been making these movies one after the other, and each one of them tells a story, but these aren't just sort of good stories. They're stories that it seems you have a point.
Yes. Dinesh, let me start by saying this last Mother's Day was unprecedented for our family. It was so special. You see, my wife and I have 6 children. 4 of them are adopted. My oldest daughter had the opportunity to connect with her birth mother, and she, along with my wife's blessing, spent Mother's Day meeting her birth mother for the very first time. She spent the weekend there at her house, and this was so special for her to complete this story. And all of this reminds me how thankful I am for those who value and champion and defend a culture of life. And that's what this movie Lifemark was all about. It was the true story of an 18-year-old girl who chose adoption over abortion at the last minute. And 19 years later, she has a chance to meet with her 19-year-old son, and she thinks he probably hates her for not keeping him. And the opposite was true. He wraps her up in a loving embrace and says, "Thank you for the choice that you made. I love my family. I have this beautiful life, and you are my hero." The movie Lifemark, it was in theaters for a few weeks, and it is making the rounds around the world now and coming to digital. And we are blown away at the response from people who realize this isn't about an argument between pro-choice and pro-life. This is an adoption option, which is the answer to people's prayers, and it is the celebration of humanity.
Well, it's interesting. You could have gone a completely different direction, and you could have stepped into kind of my wheelhouse and done a documentary on the abortion debate and is abortion a right and what does the Constitution say? And it's very interesting. You decided, look, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to approach this debate, but sort of sideways. I'm going to do it by telling a story that people can identify with, and by affirming the value of life. People will then reflect back on what does that mean for a policy decision. So your movies aren't about policy, but in a sense, policy is still on the horizon, isn't it?
Yes. And I didn't have that strategy when I made this movie with my friends, the Kendrick brothers. Those are the guys who made Fireproof, Courageous, War Room. They're really the experts here. But that's exactly the effect that it's been having. We heard a story of a man who was Uber driving in order to make some extra cash. And one of the clients that got into his car was a young lady. She was on her way, he noticed, to the address of an abortion clinic. And when he noticed this, he reflected on the fact that he had seen the Lifemark movie the night before. And he asked the young lady, would you mind if I requested that you would consider watching this movie before you make such a life-altering decision? She said that she would. She went home. He contacted someone to get the movie to her, put her in touch with a local leader at a church, got her back in touch with her family, and began to counsel her. She came to faith in the Lord for the very first time, and she chose life for her baby and is connected to a community of faith to help walk her through that journey. So we hear stories like that and we say, wow, this is a tool that's being used.
I mean, this is so awesome and so moving to hear when you take a film, which is, after all, in entertainment. It's out there. It's a story. People see it for a couple of hours. It's often, I'm free on a Saturday evening. I'm going to watch a movie. But then it plays into the way they think about the world. And in the case that you just described, it leads to going in a completely different direction. And I don't just mean the affirmation of life, but to some degree, there's eternal salvation also involved here, isn't there?
I believe so. Absolutely. When I think back on the things that have made the biggest impact on my life, there are times when I have questions and arguments are helpful and I need them. I want to know what really happened. And that's in the case of your documentaries, Dinesh. I found 2000 Mules to be so helpful to me. You researched and got proof and evidence. And then there's questions of the heart. There's questions of the soul, of the spirit. And I know that there are stories that have impacted me and made a huge difference in my life. And that's what I'm trying to do with these films. So I'm excited to be on the same team as you, Dinesh, fighting for the things that really count and that lead to human flourishing.
Well, keep it up, Kirk. You're doing a great job. By the way, kirkcameron.com is the website. The latest film, Lifemark, look for it. I believe right around Thanksgiving, it's going to be widely available in digital, so definitely consider that. And check out Kirk's podcast, The American Campfire Revival with Red Seat Ventures. Thanks, Kirk Cameron. Always great to have you.
All right, great to see you, Dinesh. Take care.